I'm Jay Moran.
I'm Bridget Jaipal Valenza.
I'm Thomas O'Neill White.
I'm Angelique Preston.
We need to get together and let our voices be heard.
This is What's Next, a dedicated hour to have important conversations about the issues facing the marginalized and underrepresented communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario.
We're going to have some real healing. We've got to have space to tell some uncomfortable truth.
What's Next continues our mission to discuss race,
Equity,
And the common concerns of Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
In the suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
And good morning. Welcome to What's Next. And on this morning's conversation, we're going to have with us Francesca Mesiah, the Executive Director of the Near East and West Side Task Force, and also a board member and also works for one of the member organizations, Family Works Buffalo, and the Osborne Association. That's Dior. Lindsey, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A pleasure for sure. And Francesca, let's talk a little bit. Let's just maybe get into a general conversation because this organization has a lot of, I don't want to say moving parts, but it's a big organization that always seems to be changing with the needs of the community, the Near East and West Side Task Force. Why don't you give us an overview?
Yes, well, the Near East and West Side Task Force began in 2001 with the East Side Task Force, which was a part of the Black Leadership Forum, which met at Gethsemane Baptist Church under Reverend Reed. And in 2001, for those of you who can remember, that was a time of the .22 caliber killer. And not only did the group of leaders who met within the Black Leadership Forum begin addressing that, they also began to looking at the needs of the health conditions, or the lack of health of the needs of the health conditions on the East Side,
Right.
but the lack of services, and no one person really, no champion coming to say all the different health disparities. So then that's where the East Side Task Force came from, and they met at Deaconess Hospital, which then was just Deaconess Hospital, but now part of. But now, matter of fact, Deaconess Hospital is now High Point, which is part of Kaleida Health,
Right.
which is where I work, Kaleida Health. And so that's how the East Side Task Force began working closely with Kaleida Health. However, we're a collaboration of organizations.
Right.
So at that time, there was a gentleman who worked for Kaleida Health, Andres Garcia, who was also a member of the Western New York Friends and Family Hispanic Civic Association, and that formed in 2003. So many members of the task force were also members of the Hispanic organization. So it was in 2006, through a lot of conversation, that the organizations came together because people were going to this, meetings for the East Side and the West Side.
Right.
The health conditions were the same, education conditions were the same or similar. And then we had a meeting, and around that time, 2006, is when I became executive director, because I was at that time with Kaleida Health, and I'm still with Kaleida Health. And that's when we came up with the name Near East and West Side Task Force, because the work that we do in the areas of health and education are focused on the East Side, Lower East, the Near East Side, as well as the Lower West Side, which then was primarily a Latino community, and now we know it's immigrants and
Right.
Latino.
Huge mixed community. Yeah, for sure. Now, it's interesting, though, because Kaleida, in essence, supports you to do
Yes.
this work with the task force. I know the interest, of course, is in improving outcomes, but at the same time, maybe just expand on why is Kaleida Health so invested in making sure that there's somebody there making sure this organization runs?
Well, because Kaleida Health is concerned about the community, has always been concerned about the community, and when the task force first began, it was your major health insurance companies, all of your hospitals, ECMC, the Catholics. It was colleges and universities, And I believe, I've never asked them, but I believe they saw something that worked when everyone came together, focusing on specific communities, focusing
Right.
on the East Side and Gethsemane Baptist Church is in the Fruit Belt, said this works. This is working.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no need to, break what was working.
Gotcha.
And Kaleida Health is very supportive, remains supportive of the Near East and West Side Task Force, and they've been a member all of these years.
Dior, Lindsey, let's talk just a little bit more about your role here and also with Family Works Buffalo.
Sure.
But let's talk about Family Works Buffalo first and foremost, just to give us an outline of what that's about.
Yeah, sure. So Family Works Buffalo is a program of the Osborne Association. And in Buffalo, we work primarily with children and families affected by a loved one's incarceration in Western New York, especially if the incarceration is of a parent. So we support children and families that have been affected by this, but Osborne as a whole is a New York City-based agency that's been around for almost 100 years. And the rest of our 4 sites, Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem, and Newburgh, really Osborne does things from arrest to reentry and children, youth, and family services, and has done so for years.
And talk about how now that merges or comes into connection then with the Near East and West Side Task Force in terms of, obviously you guys are a member, you're a board member, but you're also, the organization is a member of this task force as well. Talk about that connection.
Yeah, sure. So Family Works Buffalo opened in 2019, in September of 2019 in particular. And during that time is when I met Fran.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned about the Near East and West Side Task Force and the significant community impact that it has. And due to the intersection of the criminal legal system and public health, a lot of people haven't been able to understand or even examine what that looks like, especially when it comes to children. So when we became members of the Near East and West Side Task Force, it was, a perfect connection to have. I know one of my colleagues, Wayne, was on the show not too long ago, and he brought up, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And that study that was done talks about the long-term health impacts that children can experience, when they're exposed to different adverse events. And parental incarceration is one of the top adverse childhood experiences. If I'm not mistaken, it's the 4th most common. And to think about ACEs from a public health standpoint, it was, just so essential to be a part of the work that, the Near East and West Side Task Force has been doing. And we've been members since and doing wonderful outreach. And, we've been able to get connected to so many wonderful organizations as well as people during our time. And I think, the Near East and West Side Task Force does wonderful work.
I'm looking forward to a little later in the program getting a little deeper into that issue that Family Works Buffalo gets into. But I want to stick with the task force for just a little bit because, and Dior just mentioned it, outreach. It's really, it really is the essence of the task force.
And it is, but a little before that, even in 2001, the task force did studies looking at health disparities, life expectancies of African Americans versus white. Looking why are the life expectancies shorter? Why, and this is in 2001. Why is infant mortality? Why are African American moms dying in birth? Why are the babies dying? So an organization, we're talking about outreach, getting into outreach, such as Buffalo Pre and Perinatal, have always been a part of the Near East and West Side Task Force. We're small, but we're mighty.
I like the way that sounds.
This is the first executive director was Dr. Juanita Hunter. who is a nurse, and she's still around here in Buffalo. Then it was Barbara Franklin, and I'm the third executive director. And so, and in terms of outreach, we partner. That we talk about the collaboration. So through conversations, through our meetings, that's where we find out, the need in the Broadway film work community at Matt Urban. We've been to Matt Urban. We haven't been there recently, but we've been to Matt Urban. We've been to the Bell Center. We've been to the West Side Community Center. We've been to Johnny B. Wiley. The Broadway Market. We've also been part of outside activities with a woman named Mrs. Triggs, who was outside,
Mrs. Triggs,
Mrs. Triggs,
Sycamore, right?
Sycamore.
Yeah.
But she does outreach, even including in Black Rock. But once we hear of the need, and Buffalo Municipal Housing been working closely with BMHA in terms of providing services, bringing the services, because we know, and when you're living in, they call it health disparities, I call it life disparities.
Right.
When you're living in conditions where you're on it, you don't have a car, the bus system is slower. You have children at home. You may have loved ones at home. You can't go that far. It's much easier if you can get your health insurance, receive a health screening, find out information on how to, work with your information and working with a child whose parent is in prison, incarcerated. It's much easier to take your, maybe push your loved one in a wheelchair, take that baby in a stroller. It's much easier if you can just have to walk a few blocks
somewhere in your neighborhood
to your community center.
Right.
And we work year round.
And like you said, you're out doing the outreach and you're seeing these things. What are you learning about the people of Buffalo? What are you seeing?
One of the things I will say that people are more open about their health.
That's good news.
Yes, and I'll say especially with diabetes.
Okay,
I'll just use that as an example.
And a significant one.
Significant, because working with Collida, the resources, I always am able to have diabetes information or stroke information. People are now having conversations. Can I get that information on low blood sugar, high blood sugar? Can I get that information again on, how to prepare my plate? And by the way, do you have information on a primary care physician? Because we work with general physicians. So, we need information on primary care physicians, and also the Community Health Center of Buffalo, which is where Dior's office is housed. Working along with Levon and Sari. For years, we've worked along with her in terms of, because they have dental. So people are now more open and more comfortable. Because I think there are more health organizations working with health disparities, such as a Buffalo Health Equity.
So overall, though, since your time there and before, and you have a great experience in Buffalo, do you see that these outreach efforts are making people more comfortable with coming up and really exploring the information that you are offering?
They are, and I do surveys. So after each outreach, there's an evaluation, right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, I didn't get your evaluation. So each organization turns in an evaluation, and so it's not me saying how it's working.
Okay,
it's the organization. It's also how many people has Independent Health, has Univera, has Highmark. How many people have they enrolled through the outreach? So that's what keeps people coming back and being members, because we're able to track.
Well, Dior, I you smiled and started laughing there, so you know about the survey. So tell us maybe about the survey. Tell us maybe what some of the input that you've offered.
Yeah, we track, how many people came to our table.
Okay.
What are some of those conversations that are being had? What are some of the resources that are being offered to the families or any of the individuals that have, come to your table and inquired, about the resources. And I mean, we do our own internally, but that's why I chuckle, because I was like, yeah, we do every single event. And I think it's important for us to, take a moment to recognize that, these numbers, reflect the number of instances that we have opportunities to really make a significant impact in someone's life by offering them resources that they didn't know existed or didn't think could have been so important to them. I mean, I can only, speak for, my experiences
Please do, yeah.
particularly, but I can't tell you how many times folks have come to our table and said, I wish these resources were available when I was a kid. Or, I had no idea that, video visiting was something that was local that I could do with my loved ones that are incarcerated. Or, oftentimes that stigma piece is also there. Like, oh, I don't need that, or, thank goodness I don't need that, which absolutely, but for the folks that do, statistically 1 out of 2 people do. And with that frequency, just having the opportunity to really provide information is just essential. And I think the Near East and West Side Task Force does an amazing job with that.
And so to outreach, let's say for Dior, I may have next to the table, because sometimes I am strategic when I place people next to each other. Next to it, I may have Juville with the student pharmacist.
Okay.
And that way, people, because a lot of times when you're in the community, you really don't know, you don't understand the medication you're taking. You don't know why you really should take your high blood pressure medicine every day, even though hypertension is tied in with heart disease and stroke. You really don't know. So then, one of our board members, Lynn, Dr. Rivers, she will have some of her students. We've had physical therapy students. We've had pharmacy students. Working with another member, we've had nursing students who are able to take blood pressure. I've seen people go home, again, because it's close, get their medicine, come back, speak with the pharmacy student, and ask them about their medication. But then, of course, there's someone who's over the students. I've seen people with physical therapy do I forgot what the test is called, it's walking, but again, it's testing your gait. And again, making people aware of the services that are through Juville College, because again, Juville has been a member of the task force for many years. I'm of the belief that health and education go hand in hand, and you can't separate them.
What about the comfort level for somebody who comes to one of your events? Let's talk about that. What that's like.
The comfort level, even when you can't speak English,
smiles, which is becoming more and more significant.
Smiles go a long way.
Yeah.
Smiles go, and communication, and when you point, because many times there could be somebody with them who does speak a little English, and working along with Urban League and Project Hope, they have outreach people that speak 6 different languages. So sometimes I can just go over to Project Hope and ask, does someone speak Bengali? Does someone speak one of the languages? They'll walk around with them.
Okay.
When we have outreach at BMHA, there's someone that speaks Spanish. One of our board members, Esmeralda, speaks Spanish. So when someone really does not speak the language, again, that's also making sure that people are around who are able to speak the language, who then are able to walk around with the individual for that comfort level versus saying sorry.
Right.
I don't like that word, sorry.
Doesn't sound like something you accept.
No.
What about the trust factor? There's always, we hear about that a little bit when it comes to people in the community may not trust or don't feel comfortable approaching certain elements. What about that? Is that something that you're aware of, or is it something that you see as generally not an issue for you?
Most of our members are all in their role. If it's a health or education, they're all in the outreach area.
Okay.
So they're used to being out in the community. They're out. I'll never forget observing one of our members one time. My gosh, she was just so quiet, But when someone from the community, one of the customers came up to her, she just opened up. And I said, that's her style. You know, everyone has a different style for comfort. And, you know, and when I know for our behavioral health, when I know we have a behavioral health organization, if it's crisis services, if it's Urban League Project Hope, I put them in the corner. I'll make sure that that's a corner table. So then they can have a chair on the corner, and there's no one next to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they can have a more of a private conversation, because many times it's the beginning conversation that will lead to that's part of a phone conversation later on in detail. But for behavioral health, they're in the corner. Like, they wouldn't be in the middle in between, you know, UB research and let's say and Osborne. They would not be between those two. They're privacy, because I recognize that.
You've got this pretty much covered, huh, Frank? Let's take a time out. We'll come back and talk more about the Near East and West Side Task Force. With us today, Dior Lindsey, one of their board members, and also with Family Works Buffalo, and also the executive director, Francesca Mesiah. This is What's Next on WBFO.
WBFO wants to hear about your favorite Thanksgiving traditions. What are your favorite foods, rituals? Tell us your stories by using the Talk to Us feature in the WBFO app. Or call us at 877-997-9236 and leave a message. Then listen to WBFO during Thanksgiving weekend to hear about the wonderful traditions of your neighbors.
Do you hear that? That's the lullaby of Broadway. Join me, Anthony Chase, on a memorable trip to New York City, January 22nd through the 26th. We'll see 5 hit Broadway shows, Kimberly Akimbo and Juliet, Back to the Future, A Beautiful Noise, and Shocked. And we'll eat at Sardi's. Transportation, hotel, and select meals are also included. Space is limited, so don't delay. Call 716-630-3731 or visit wned.org/travel.
It's Reading Rainbow's 40th anniversary, and we're celebrating by releasing 40 full episodes of the classic PBS children's series. Look for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday through February on the Reading Rainbow YouTube channel. Visit readingrainbow.org/watch to find family activities for you and your child to do together after watching episodes. Activities are available in both English and Spanish. The episodes are available on YouTube for a limited time, so subscribe so you don't miss any.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And you're listening to What's Next. With us this morning, 2 members of the Near East and West Side Task Force here in Buffalo. Their executive director, Francesca Mesiah, and also Dior Lindsey is a board member, and also with one of the organizations involved with Near East and West Side Task Force, Family Works Buffalo, part of the Osborne Association. I know we talked about outreach. You have an outreach event coming up in December, right?
Yes.
At the Broadway Market.
Friday, December 1st at the Broadway Market. It's our 10th year of hosting Passport to Wellness.
All right.
And we call it Passport to Wellness because it's all of our members. It's health and education. But with the 10th year, even the residents are aware of it. So we have people lined up before we're even set up. And what is it? So individuals, the participants, walk around to each table, have a brief conversation with member organizations. And if we have screenings, they have to participate in screenings. This year we do have dental screenings provided by ECMC.
Okay.
From their dental. In the past, we've had asthma screenings. We're looking for blood pressure screenings. We've done flu shots. But this year, right now, we have about 9 organizations. Many times we share a table because we collaborate with the Broadway Market. Individuals will go around and have a conversation about what that organization has to present, And then when they come back, they're able to get the first 75 people
Okay.
receive a gift card to Tops Market. And that comes out of the task force budget.
But didn't you tell me that there is one, they have to answer one important question?
Yes. Before they get that gift card, the question is, did you learn anything?
Right.
And people are always say, yeah. I'm like, no, I have to write it down because I document it. And then once people talking about the one thing that they learned, they normally always mention Dior's organization because they didn't know that was around.
Right.
You know, and then they'll normally they're so excited about what they learned. Many times I have to say, okay, thank you, because a line has developed.
Forming.
But you have to at least tell me one thing, one takeaway, because to me that's all part of your wellness. Is what did you retain? That's that educator in me. What did you retain? And making sure that you just didn't have you have a bag, and it's not about having information in your bag. It's about what did you learn,
right?
To take away, to share with your family and friends.
Ever surprised about what people say that they take away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, many times people say they didn't know it was around. Many times, people will say that they'll share it with their neighbor. And to me, that's great to know you're going to take what you have in your bag, what you learned, and share it. You know, I've had people who have gotten on the phone, called their family members, gone and gotten bringing 5 family members in.
Wow.
Because they are amazed, because there's information at one of the tables that impacts their family members. And we also have job information.
Okay.
But so I've seen many a time people get on the phone and just make calls.
And you said you right now you have, what, 9 organizations?
We have 9 organizations because we really can only accommodate 12 because that's based on the Broadway market. They're based on their space availability. And we're in front of the meats, so we're by the meat section. So we catch bus drivers who have just dropped off children. We have members of the community coming in. It's just a cross section of people who are coming into the Broadway market. We encourage everyone to dress in holiday attire because people are curious. When you're dressed a little unconventional, people will say, "What is that? Why is her head lighting up?"
Are you going to be dressed in lights?
Always.
Yeah.
I have a reindeer
She has
hat.
reindeer,
and they light up.
Oh, so we know.
So I have antlers.
You can hear Fran's voice, but now you know what she's going to look like at the Broadway market.
Right.
How about for you, Dior? You getting? I don't know if that's really your style, dressed like that or no.
Yeah, no, I usually wear an ugly sweater every time I go.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
or Christmas sweater. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Dior, I want to get into a little bit more about what Family Works Buffalo does. Just a little bit, take some time here, because as Fran mentioned, how often people are surprised to know that there is an opportunity here for loved ones of people who are incarcerated to connect better, to find opportunities. Talk about what is available through Family Works Buffalo.
Yeah, so so locally, our services are video visiting. That's one of them. So families can come to our office, which is located in the Community Health Center of Buffalo, 34 Benwood Avenue, which once again talks about that intersectionality of the criminal legal system and public health. But families can come to our office for free once a month, up to 4 family members, and they can visit with an incarcerated loved one for 11 different New York State correctional facilities. And the room is set up kind of like a living room with a whole bunch of toys, books, and games. It's very well lit, therapeutic, and families are able to take that time to bond at no cost. And of course, it's never meant to replace anything in person.
No.
Because, you can't replicate a hug virtually.
Right.
But, families are able to have that opportunity to bond. And, during the higher points of COVID, when in-person visiting opportunities weren't available, we had over 100 video visits in less than a year just at our site alone. So it's one of our more popular services. locally that we have in our program, as well as we have 2 youth groups, one for kids 12 to 15, another for kids 15 to 19 that have also had this experience of having a loved one incarcerated or recently released. And it's our once a week support group. They do them in New York City. We really just brought it here and offered that opportunity. So we have over 20 kids in our group right now, and they do really fun workshops, very educational workshops.
Do you find
as
the kids
well.
bonding together?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. And relationship building and building social support and really maximizing those opportunities to build resilience is really just everything that we do through a lot of our work.
Something you mentioned to me before we were on the air, and this caught me off guard. Well, a lot of things catch me off guard, but this one particular fact, when it comes to maximum security for women in New York State, the closest facility is where?
Yeah, Bedford Hills is 6.5 hours away from Buffalo. And for our video visiting program, we're in all the women's correctional facilities, which is Bedford, Taconic, and Albion. And if you have a loved one that's at Bedford, you're, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of finances are going to have to be put into actually visiting that loved one in person, which we always encourage in person. But Bedford Hills is one of our more popular sites just in Buffalo alone, just because of the time and the distance it takes to actually visit.
What's it like for these kids when they're on these video calls or just in general conversation that you might have with them? What's their experience?
Oh, I could take up a whole episode just talking about that.
We may be inviting you back.
But yeah, I have had instances where I've had kids just bring their, sign saying, "Dad, like, I'm graduating from high school. I'm doing that one thing that you said that you wanted to make sure that I'm doing." Because you never got a chance to do it, right? I've seen instances where parents are parenting their kids in the video visitor room. "Hey, I was at the parent-teacher conference. I heard X, Y, and Z. What's going on? What do you need?" I see kids light up, having that opportunity to see mom or dad in that room, whether or not they're playing Uno or, whatever games they may play, or whether or not they're reading a book together. I've just seen the opportunity for family bonding. And even just one instance, we also take in, kids that are also in foster care that have a loved one. So I've had foster care parents. I've had the mom, the caseworker, and the child visit with mom, and it made her reentry and reunion with the child so much easier. So just offering the opportunity for support has just been, it's one of the joys of our program that I really love talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just, what are I guess you could, anytime a child is separated from a parent for whatever reason, has got to be difficult. But is there a stigma that these kids feel because of this connection?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes when we're doing, outreach with the task force, sometimes I have, parents whisper.
Yes.
Like, "I don't want other folks around to know." Or sometimes I've had instances where parents will tell us, "Oh, she doesn't know. She thinks he's away at college." And even when I'm out doing trainings, because trainings is another one of our services, I remember doing a training for a mental health group, a group of mental health practitioners. And one of them said, "I was told that, well-intended deception excuse," right? "They told me my dad was away at college, but when he came home, he didn't come back with a degree," right? So that stigma that often exists in these systems are significantly pervasive to the point where, age-appropriate truths aren't often told. And that's where, like, through, our community outreach, we're able to have those conversations with people about stigma and the importance of getting support if, that's something that fits you and your family.
And the other thing with the task force, I would be remiss, we have monthly meetings.
Okay.
And during our monthly meetings, many of our members, because we don't know what each other, what we do.
Oh, yeah.
So Dior has been a speaker. So each month we have a monthly meeting, and ever since COVID, we operated during COVID, the meetings are on Zoom. We have our board meeting, and the second Tuesday of each month is our monthly meeting. So, for instance, this month we have one of our members, Charles from Buffalo Federation of Neighborhood Centers, talking about food insecurities and how they provide food for residents within the Fruit Belt community, which is huge. And our meeting is normally led by our board president, Judge McLeod, retired Judge McLeod, who has been with the task force since the beginning, because he was originally part of the Black Leadership Forum in 2001. So he has been a member who brings wisdoms from many different angles.
Yeah, maybe expand on that a little bit. Talk about Judge McLeod.
So he's been, besides a city court judge, Judge McLeod also serves on different boards. And he's the one who recently said that he really feels that food insecurities, besides our health and education, that we need to do more in the area of food insecurities.
Okay.
Because it's such a huge area, even before the Tops massacre.
Right.
And so, and our members, so really it's going back to the members again to ask what do your organizations do? What are your organizations doing around food insecurities? Duville has something, but it's more they have something during the summer, a program in the summer, but they also have fresh fruits and vegetables where they service during the winter months only faculty and staff. So it's going to each of the members and finding out going to UB, what are you doing, and speaking with Dior. It was during our last board meeting. Dior said Buffalo Federation of Neighborhood Centers is doing food insecurities.
Okay.
And so our member Charles is normally on the call every month. He's a speaker. he's our speaker. So we have speakers every month that are always focused on some aspect in the community that impacts, let's say 98% of the groups.
Right.
But it impacts it impacts the community 100%.
And does this then impact then also the way you go about your outreach then? And how you proceed?
some of the outreach, but many times it's how can we help you? How can we would ask the organization. We would ask how can we help you to get your message out?
All right.
And that's what we ask. And many times people are like, oh, well, we might have a letter writing campaign. Can you help in that? And then sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no. We would like for the members of News Task Force to come to our center. Okay, we can do that. How many people? Give me at least a month, and then I'll let everyone know. The date, the time, the location, and then normally I get at least 6 organizations, between 5 to 6 organizations. But some organizations focus primarily on elderly. So we have an organization called Elderwood, not Elderwood, the nursing facility or long-term care.
Right.
But there's a part of Elderwood that's part of the program. If you're on Medicare, you are able then to take care of your loved one at home and get paid. So because of a lot of the communities, all the communities we go into are those that are health disparity or poverty or, they are able to then connect with individuals who might be interested in it, but they are interested in a outreach that would target a senior citizen facility. such as a Buffalo Municipal Housing, BMHA facility. But they wouldn't be as interested in a facility with kids because our population is older.
Sure.
Parent Network, they've been a member for years. Parent Network may not be as interested in an outreach in a community center with basically seniors, but they would want something that has more families. Some seniors, because a lot of seniors do take care of their children.
Yep.
But they would want to make sure that it's something, because they have services for children with learning needs. You know.
As you were talking about that, Alice, you brought up something in the break about loved ones, getting loved ones to taking a loved one.
Taking a loved one. That was one of our signature projects. Take a loved one to the doctors.
Okay.
We did that for 4 years in a row. And what we were able to do, working along with health clinics, working along with hospitals, first it was for a day, but then it went for a week. And we had at each location, like let's say our federally qualified health centers, there was someone from one of our members from a health insurance company. They would make an appointment to see the health provider. But what happened, people were just getting sicker. And so as people become sicker, let's say your blood pressure is off the roof, is sky high, and, so then who will pay when that individual then has to go to the emergency department?
Okay.
Who is going to take care of that? We even had dental. We had a dental service, part of Take a Loved One to the Doctor, and it was for a week. And you were able to go to the doctors for free, but we had health insurance there. We had a health insurance company to make sure you enrolled in a health insurance company, and also to try and match you up with a primary care physician, because many members in our in our communities, East and West Side, still don't have a primary care physician.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's got to be troubling, though.
It is. I mean, Dr. Vesquez on the West Side was. Once he opened his practice, that was great. But, but then people were just getting sicker, and it was like, what do you do? Who then is the next person to make sure that they get the care? And then eventually it was just becoming a liability, and the program ended.
Okay.
But that was that was really, that, and for
But it
that,
kind of shows how your organization is always shifting its focus.
Always shifting its focus. But the eye on the prize is the East Side and the Lower West Side. That part has not changed because the conditions have not changed that much.
That's your, I was just going to ask you that. That's your assessment that, unfortunately,
things have gotten better. I mean, and the community is changing. That's the other part.
Right.
It's not the East Side of 2021. The East Side of 2023, homes are selling for over $100,000, and people are so again. But there's still a core group of individuals who are still in the Broadway Fillmore area, who are still in the Fruit Belt, who are still in the area around Jefferson where the massacre took place, who are on the West Side, near Tops, near the Bell Center, near West Side Community Service, near Jewville. So that was, so that those areas are still in need of services. During COVID, we gave away over 3,000 masks, cloth masks. But what the board said, well, everyone may not understand about the importance of washing a cloth mask. And so we had instructions in English and Spanish. We went to many of the senior housing units on both the West Side, where was basically a lot of the residents speak Spanish. So we had instructions in English and Spanish, and we put the masks in a Ziploc bag. Oh, I shouldn't say Ziploc. In a plastic bag. In a plastic bag. And so individuals were then able to hold on, keep it clean, keep it sanitary, so that was when COVID hit. And on our website, I know we had organizations, because from private, we had private donors who were also providing masks. So, and also membership are both public and private, not-for-profit, and individuals are all members of the Near East and West Side Task Force.
Individuals as well, huh?
Individuals, yeah.
People want to support it.
Well, and
be
not all
involved.
organizations are able to support it. So, but people realize the value, such as the one of our ladies from Erie County Department of Health. She has colorectal kits for people who have not had a colorectal exam, where you're able to take your stool, put it in a little dish, mail that in an envelope to see if there's blood in your stool. You know, we've done PSA screenings as part of that, because we know screenings are at the heart and at the root of many of our health conditions. So we try to provide that. On education side, we've had workshops and financial aid. Before Say Yes Buffalo came around,
right,
we were able to have that. And again, a partner organization, we use their space, so it's free. You know, we had Dr. David Satcherin. Oh my gosh, that was like probably 2015, talking about behavioral health in youth. Before, again, people really started talking about it. So we tried also to be at the cutting edge of health and
push
education.
the issues out there and help make the community aware of what's happening. Let's take one more time out, and we'll come back and finish up our conversation this morning with Dior Lindsey and also Francesca Mesiah. We're talking with about the Near East and West Side Task Force. This is What's Next on WBFO.
Hey, is this thing on?
Test, 1, 2.
Sounds great. Let's go.
The podcast world is overflowing with more than 750,000 podcasts to choose from.
But for great local podcasts, you can now go to one place, the new Amplified BTPM Pods app. Here you can discover content produced in Western New York and Southern Ontario, our own backyard.
With a wide variety of genres to choose from, there is something for everyone.
Listen to the best independently produced podcasts in the region, anywhere, anytime.
Download the free Amplify BTPM Pods app wherever you get your apps and begin exploring your local podcast community now.
Explore the intersection of music and mental health with Mindful Music, hosted by mental health advocate and educator Carl Shalomorn. Listen to guests share how they use music to express their inner nature and manage their emotional well-being. Listen to Mindful Music on Saturdays at 4 p.m. and Sundays at 8 p.m. on WBFO.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And this is What's Next. With us from the Near East and West Side Task Force, their Executive Director, Francesca Mesiah, and Dior Lindsey, board member and also with Family Works Buffalo, part of the Osborne Association. We're going to use the title of the show to get into our conversation, the final segment here. What is next? What is next for the task force, and how do you go about gauging that?
Well, looking at trends.
All right. What do you see as trends now?
Well, trends now, behavioral health is a big trend because people, especially in in the Latino community as well as the African American community, it's still difficult for people to really talk about and realize that their loved one or they may have issues, for lack of a better word, or may need assistance.
Well, a social worker might be able to
Social worker
expand
might have
on
the
that
right
a
word.
Yeah, no.
with
mental
behavior,
health.
with mental health.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, with food insecurities.
Right.
Because if you don't have food in your house, you know, how can you go to a job interview? How can you? And that's what's coming up in the schools. You're seeing in the schools where they're running out of milk. You know, you're seeing in the schools where some schools are now allowing all students to have a free breakfast and lunch because they're realizing some people are too proud Don't tell them. Don't tell them. You hear that. And so the whole food, how many ways food impacts your brain when it comes to education. Food impacts you on the job. So those are trends. I also look at large cities to see what large cities and their community health departments are doing. Because to me, here in Buffalo, we have everything that a large city has. We may not know about it, but we have it. And if that's the case, that organization would then become a speaker, the monthly speaker, and talk about what they're doing, in terms of what's next. How can we help you? How can members of the Near East and West Side Task Force help your organization further their mission? So those are the questions that we ask of the speakers, or we'll ask, well, what have you done on the East Side?
Right.
You have some organizations that, want to say, what have you done? But I mean, another trend is the fluoride. Fluoride has not been in Buffalo water for, again, it affects your teeth. It affects the your dental health. And that was a speaker that we had. That was an awareness that was brought to me. Can we have a speaker come in? And again, it's virtual. So in terms of what's next and the environment, the NAACP is working very closely with the environment. So again, the environment goes hand in hand with the conditions on the East Side and conditions on the West Side, Lower West Side. So environment and food and jobs.
And I'm going to just jump back to your initial point about mental health, and I'll throw this to you, Dior, because this is really your field. I feel we hear more about mental health issues.
Yeah.
Is it because people are making it a little more aware that there are opportunities and people opening up about their issues, or is it just the real realities of the pressures of everyday life that are creating more mental health issues? What are your thoughts about that? I mean, I don't expect you to necessarily have a simple answer to. It's obviously a very complicated question.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that increased access has allowed for more opportunities for people to share. I think work around decreasing the stigma around mental health has also allow for more opportunity for people to be more comfortable with sharing, what their mental health has been like. I think, COVID, and when it comes to a lot of just different issues that we've had globally and also locally, the things that can significantly impact your mental health and access even, through telehealth. And more folks actually being open just to talk about it. I mean, one thing that Fran mentioned is that even at the outreach events that we do, there are folks that are there doing depression screenings. And
really?
even if you do the depression screening, you get a gift card, for your time as well. So I think just different opportunities being offered to talk about it, plus increased access, and just a lot of different scenarios that have just allowed for people to have the opportunity to be more vulnerable, I think is more so of what's happening. Because before it was like, this is a thing that you don't talk about, where now it's no different than analyzing the rest of your physical health. It is essential to your overall health, and we definitely need to talk about it more.
And speaking of health, I know one of the things you had mentioned, an awareness. How did I know there was an awareness during outreach? For years, through our stroke department, our comprehensive stroke department at Kaleida, I have a stroke magnet. And people will say to me now, right, and they'll say, oh, I have that magnet. I'm like, okay, well, what's on the magnet? And people can now tell me the warning signs of a stroke.
Oh.
Facial movement, the arm, falling, slurred speech. People are now telling me what's on the stroke magnet. So it's social science. I don't have an actual tool, but I do share this information with our stroke department.
It's got to be tremendously gratifying
It
to know
is.
that.
It is. I just want to give people a big hug, but I know I can't. But for people to tell me what I've been giving them because they know it now, then after I listen, I'll say, okay, well, can you take one and give it to someone else?
Very nice.
And people normally say, oh, okay, sure.
And we only have about less than a minute left, but I want to make sure that we talk one more time about the upcoming event, the next outreach event on December 1st at the Broadway Market.
Yes, 8:30 until 8:30 to 12.
Okay.
Or until the gift cards run out. It's called Passport to Wellness. First 75 people who go through and have a brief conversation with each of the vendors, including a dental screening. ECMC will then, and after they go and meet with everyone, it takes no more than 10 minutes of your time.
Okay.
And age 13 on up. And I say 13 because some 13-year-olds are moms.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dior, are you going to be there? Your organization will be there? At the Broadway
Yes,
Market?
I'll be there with my Christmas sweater.
That's right. You'll have it
I'll have my antlers.
And she'll have her antlers.
The one with the antlers is Francesca Mesiah, the executive director of the Near East and West Side Task Force. And the one with the Christmas sweater is Dior Lindsey, the board member and member of Family Works Buffalo. This has been What's Next on WBFO and WBFO HD1 Buffalo, WOLN Olean, and WUBJ Jamestown, your NPR station.